Hey there. Today we'll be building a personal finance dashboard using Nextjs, Tailwind CSS, and Shadcn UI charts. Throughout this project, we will be applying industry best practices for structuring and styling a modern Nextjs app, so you'll not only end up with a beautiful dashboard, but one that's clean, scalable, and easy to maintain. We'll be creating 3 unique dashboards, each offering valuable insights. Let's take a tour of what we'll be building. First up is the financial health dashboard. We'll begin with a financial health radar, using a radar chart to compare personal finances against a benchmark, helping to visualize strengths and areas for improvement. Next, we'll create an asset allocation tree map, an interactive display that breaks down net worth by category, offering a clear view of financial distribution. Finally, we'll build the cash flow streams visualization, breaking down income, expenses, and savings month by month for a detailed look at financial flow. Next, we'll tackle the wallet dashboard. We'll start by creating a spending by category chart, which provides a detailed look at 7 unique expense categories to help spot spending trends. Then, we will visualize how spending changes over time with a monthly spending trend chart. After that, we'll build a clean, responsive list to showcase your most recent transactions, which gives us a chance to practice list building with Tailwind CSS and Shadcn UI. To wrap up this dashboard, we'll build a financial goal tracker that helps you track your progress towards savings goals. Finally, to finish things off, the third dashboard will focus on investment portfolio management. We'll start by building a portfolio performance tracker, which will monitor how your asset class distribution changes over time. Next, we'll create an asset allocation pie chart to visualize how your investments are divided across 5 unique asset classes. After that, we'll dive into the sector analysis chart, showing the stock sectors you're invested in. Finally, we'll build a list displaying your top investment holdings, providing a quick overview of your portfolio's key assets. Finally, to end the project, we'll build a settings page where users can update their personal profile information and manage their billing accounts, making sure everything is customizable and user-friendly. Now that we have finished the walkthrough, let's hop into VS Code and start coding. I'm starting with a blank folder open in VS Code. Let's go to the Shadcn UI documentation to create the project. Now let's go to Docs, and we're going to follow their installation guide. So we're going to go to Nextjs, and this will create our Nextjs project with Shadcn UI. So let's paste that in, and we're going to say yes, my app, and this will take a bit. I'm going to choose New York theme and neutral, and then yes for variables. And let's cd enter our app. Cool, that worked. And let's run it with npm run dev. And now at localhost 3000, the app should be running. Cool, there it is. Now let's continue this installation guide to install the components. So let's copy this. I'm going to make a new terminal, cd into the app again, and delete button because we want to add all the components. So A for all, and hit enter. And this will take a second. Cool, those installed. And here in the components folder, we see we added all the Shadcn UI components. And now let's go into our app. And we're going to get rid of all this boilerplate code. Delete all that. I guess delete the div too. And for now, we'll just render a Shadcn UI button. And let's check if this worked. And cool, there it is. There's no text, so we can add that in. And we'll just say hello for now. And there we go. Now let's create the layout for our pages. So let's go back, and here we're going to create a folder, and we're going to call this investments. And let's create another folder, and we'll call this settings, and we'll make a folder called wallet. These will be our page routes. And in investments, let's make page.tsx, and I'll use refce to create a component, and I'll name it investments. Let's see if this worked. So let's go to the route investments. There we go. And let's create a page for our settings. So page.tsx, settings. Then let's do the same for wallet. Right now we're just getting our layout structure done. And we'll call this wallet. And that looks good. Now let's go to our layout page. And this is how this is what's gonna be rendered on every one of our routes. So investment, settings, and wallets are all gonna share this. And let's create a div here around children. And let's style this div with class name flex, the height of the screen, background zinc 900, then text white, and there we go. And in here we're gonna have a main tag. And let's copy and paste this. So our children's within the main tag. And inside of this, we're going to put the children inside a div. And let's style this div. So class name, padding 8. And here I'm just going to leave a comment. This is where we're going to put our sidebar. And the sidebar will be on every page. So right now it's investments. We go to wallet. And you see that the padding showing up from the layout. And let's actually add one more thing to the layout. So for this main, let's style it with flex 1, overflow auto, max height, screen. And I think that's good now. Cool. And now we're going to work on building a sidebar component. So I'll show you that here. So it's pretty much this right here, and it's going to be on every page. So it changes the routes when you click on a button. So let's go to our components folder, and then new file, and sidebar tsx. There we go. And let's put that into our layout. And that's actually going to be right here. And let's see if this is showing up. So there we go. And now let's style our sidebar. So I'm going to use a side, and then class name width 64, BG zinc 800, padding 6. And inside here, we're going to have a div of class name, flex, item center, margin bottom 8. And in here, we're going to have another div. And it's going to be class name, width 8, height 8, BG, purple 50, rounded full, margin right 2, flex, items, center, justify, center. And in here, we're going to have a $sign logo. And this has to be imported. So let's import $sign. I don't know why it's not showing up, from Lucid React. That comes pre-installed with Shadcn. And this is going to be width 5, height 5. And text white. And there we go. Looks like we have a small issue. I think the background just has to be 500, not 50. And there we go. That's our logo and our sidebar. And now below here, let's have an H1. And this is going to be class name, text 2XL, font bold, and it's going to be called Finance Flow. And there we go. There's our title. Now below this, we'll have our nav. So this will have all of our buttons. And they're going to be links from Nextjs. And it's going to have href of the route. So this one's just going to be the default route. And we have to pass the href. And then button component from Shadcn with a variant of ghost. And class name with full, justify, start, margin bottom 2. And make sure we import this. There we go. That's from our component folder. And then here we're going to have a logo of a bar chart icon from Lucid React of class name margin right 2, height 4, and width 4. And we'll call this financial health. And there we go. We'll make the font bold a little later in our layout. So now we're going to make another one of these button or link buttons. So below here, let's create another link. And this will be href. And then pass href. And it's going to be a button. It might just be easier. Let's just copy and paste that because it's going to be very similar. So I'll paste that below. And let's change this to wallet. And we'll use a different icon. This will be the wallet from Lucid React. There we go. And let's change the route to wallet route. And let's copy and paste this again. And we'll change this to investments. Change this to investments here as well. And we'll use a trending up icon. And then one more button. This will be our settings. And settings. And then let's change this to a settings icon. There we go. Now we have our sidebar. And you can see how when you click on a button, it changes the route. And now let's fix the font. So let's go to our layout. And we're going to delete these fonts it came with. And then we're going to import enter from next font Google And this will have a const enter equals enter, and then subsets Latin. I just think these fonts look a little better, so let's replace this class name now with our new font. So enter class name, and there we go. Now we see it's bold. And now let's work on building these card components. So let's go back into VS Code and we'll make a new folder. We'll call this core, and a new folder inside, and we'll call it financial health. And in here, let's make a file, and it's going to be called overviewcards.tsx. And let's create this. And now let's go to our main page and we'll display that here. Overview cards. And refresh this, make sure it's saved. Okay, cool, our new component's showing up. So let's start building this component. Let's style this div with grid, gap 6, medium grid, cols 2, large grid, cols 4. And in here we're gonna have a card component. And this will be class name BG purple 100. And let's have a card header of class name flex row, item center, justify between, and then space, Y, 0, padding bottom 2. And now let's add our card title of class name text, small, font, medium. And this is going to be called net worth. And let's have a $sign below of height 4, width 4, and then text muted foreground. And nice, we have the start of our card. And now let's add our card content. And this is going to be a div of class name text 2XL, font bold, and let's do $sign $1,320,800. And for the paragraph below, let's do text extra small, text muted, foreground, and this will say plus 5.2% from last quarter. Nice, there we go. And let's copy and paste that to make our other card components. Okay, we'll change the content. This one's going to say investment returns. And let's change this div to 8.5%, and annual returns year to date. Okay, that looks a little off. I put the percent on the wrong side. So I'll fix that. Yeah, that's the only issue. There we go. And let's add our next component, which will be another card. And this one's going to be debt to income ratio. And let's change the value to 0.28. And we can change this text to healthy range below 0.36. Nice, the cards are looking good. And we just need one more now. So this one's going to be financial health score. And we'll say 82 out of 100. And we'll say plus 3 points from last assessment. Nice, there we go. The cards are looking good. And now let's work on the structure of our page. So let's go to this main page. And let's call this financial health. And let's just remove this for now. We'll add it later. And this will be class name space Y6. And then below here we'll have a div of class name flex justify between item center. And in here we'll have a h1 tag of class name text 3XL font bold, and this will be financial health. And then we'll have button generate detailed report. And below this, let's show our overview cards. And we'll have a div, class name, grid, gap, 6, medium, grid, cols, 2. And this will have 2 of our graphs that are in between, so we'll hold these 2 graphs there. And so we just leave it blank for now because we haven't created them. And I think that's it. Yeah, we'll add those in later. So now let's create those graph components or chart components. And this will be financial health radar.tsx. And I'll use RFCE to create it. And I'm going to paste in some data for it. You can generate this with ChatGPT or type it out. I also have the source code in my description. So now let's put this card component or this financial health component here. And save that. And yes, do card for this. And it'll be class name, background purple 50. Make sure to import card component from Shadcn. And in here, we're going to have a card header. And inside that, we'll have the card title of Financial Health Radar will be the title. There we go. And for the card description, it'll be comparison of your financial metrics against benchmarks. Description showed up. And now let's have another for the card content. And in here, we're going to have a responsive container, which is going to hold our chart. This will be around every chart we build. And we have to just find a width for it of 100% and a height of 350. Or just 300 actually. And make sure we import responsive, or it just has to, it needs to contain a chart. And we're going to use the radar chart inside of it. And in here, we have to pass in a CX of 50% and a CY of 50%. Then an outer radius of 80%. And then pass in our data, which is the financial health data. There we go. And make sure this is a use client component, I realized. Cool, so the space is there. We now have to add the visuals. So in here, we're gonna add a polar grid, which will be the grid part of it. Then we'll add a polar angle axis, and then we have to pass in a data key of subject and a polar angle radius, or polar radius axis of angle 30. And each one of these pieces or components we're adding in here is a different section of the chart that's created. So you could like remove some of these, but this radar piece, there we go. So you see how we see just what we've created so far. And now we can keep adding pieces. So this will be a radar. And then name equals U. And then data key of A. And then stroke of 8884D8. And then fill of 8884D8. And then fill opacity of 0.6. There we go. I don't know why radar's having an issue right now. Recharts. Oh, not important. There we go. And now we're going to add another one of these. Looked like it wasn't saved. There we go. So let's copy and paste this. And this one's going to be the benchmark. And we'll set the data key to B. And it looks like the colors 82. CA 9D. It looks like the colors aren't working yet. They're still. Oh, we're missing the hashtag in front of this one. So let's put a hashtag in front of both of these. And there we go. Now we see the colors for the radar chart. And we just have to add a legend to it now, and it's done. Cool. Now let's work on our asset allocation tree map. So that's going to be this chart right here. And you can see how it is dynamic, so it rearranges. So let's go to financial health, and let's create a new component called treemap.tsx. There we go. And I'm going to paste in some data here. And like the last one, you can either create a data set with this format or have like ChatGPT do it. But yeah. And now let's create a card component. It's going to be class name BG purple 50. And let's make sure this is imported. And we'll have a card header. And in the card header, we're going to have a card title. And this is going to be asset allocation tree map. Cool. And let's add this right below the financial health radar. And now we can see it showing up right next to it. And below the card title, let's have a card description. And this will be hierarchical view of your investment portfolio. And now let's add the card content below that, the card header. And then we'll use a responsive container to hold the tree map. And it has a width of 100%. And a height of 300. And then let's put the tree map. And make sure that's imported from recharts. And then have the data be asset allocation data. And we get error. We have to make sure this is a use client component. There we go. And let's pass in a data key of size and aspect ratio of 4/3. And then stroke is going to be FFF. And then fill. This is going to be hashtag 888-4D8. Nice. Now we can see it. And we don't have the tooltip function yet, so we'll build a custom tooltip. So below this, let's make a new component called const custom tooltip. And it's going to take in some props of active, payload, label, and getting an error right now. And the active is going to be type Boolean. Payload is going to be any. It's going to be an array of any. And label is going to be a string. And let's fix these errors now. Let's create the rest of the component. There we go. And this should, if active, end payload, and payload length, then we should return a div of class name background white p2, and then border gray 300, and then rounded, and shadow. And then in here we have a p tag of class name font bold, and then we use a backtick, $, and then brackets payload, index 0 dot payload dot name, colon, $, payload 0 dot value. And then close off the bracket. And that looks good for that component. Then let's add it in between this tree map. Tooltip. And let's pass in the props. So it's going to be const content equals custom tooltip active false payload empty array, then label, it's going to be empty string. And I think, I don't know what the issue is right now. Missing a bracket. And yeah, let's make sure we have tooltip imported. So I'll make sure that's from recharts. Cool, there we go. And now you can see the tooltip is working. And now let's build the cash flow stream visualization. So that's going to be this visualization right here. So let's go back to VS Code and create a new file. And this is going to be called cash flow TSX. And I'm going to paste in some data. So I'll paste that right here. I was missing the const. And retry there. There we go. Cool. So that's the data we need. And I'm going to use a card component. And it's going to have a class name of BG Purple 50. And let's import this card from components. And this should have a card header. And a card title. And this should be cash flow stream. And let's add this below this div on our page. And refresh. There we go. Now we just have to add the chart. So below the card header, let's add a card description. And this is going to be visualizing income, expenses, and savings over time. And below the card header, let's add our card content. And this is going to be a responsive container, which holds all of recharts graphs, or charts I mean. And it's going to be width 100%, height 400, and in here let's add an area chart. Cool. And this is going to take data of cash flow data. And then margin, top 10, right 30, left 0, and then bottom 0. And there's an issue. I'm not sure why its data is red right now. Maybe it's because we haven't added. So first we gotta add the use client. There we go. Data's still red, but I think we can just fix it by adding stuff in here. So we'll add a Cartesian grid from recharts. And it's gonna have a stroke dash array of 3, 3. There we go. And this is just a single component. And then we're gonna have an x-axis of data, key, month, and a y-axis. There we go. Import that. And oh, that's why area charts are red. So we need to import area chart in recharts. I accidentally imported as an icon. So that fixed the data error. Make sure this is saved. Cool, there we go. We can see the Cartesian grid now. And the x-axis and y-axis. So now let's add a tooltip. And a legend. And then we have to add the area, which is going to be type, monotone, data key, income, stack ID 1, stroke, and then the stroke's going to be 888 4D8 fill, And this is also going to be 888 4D8. And then make sure we import area from recharts. And tooltip. Oh, tooltip accidentally imported from Radix UI, so that has to also be imported from recharts. And there we go. We got our first piece of data on the graph or the chart. And now let's add another area. And this one's going to be expenses. And the color is going to be 2CA9D. And I'll copy and paste that down here. Cool, there's our second one. Then let's copy and paste this one more time. And this is going to be savings. And this is going to be FFC658. And let's copy and paste that and put it down here. And there we go. There's our cash flow stream. And I think that finishes our financial health page. So nice work on that. And now we'll begin working on the wallet page. So we'll start off by building these card components at the top of the wallet page. And we already did something like this, so we can reuse a lot of that. So we'll make a new folder here, and we'll call it wallet. And then let's make a new file and call it wallet summary or wallet overview cards.tsx. Let's create this component. And now let's display the component in the wallet page. There we go. We'll close out these tabs, make it more organized. And now we see it showing up. And I'm just going to reuse the overview cards. So let's copy and paste all of this. Copy. Now I'll paste it in here. Cool, paste in the imports as well. And now we see the financial health cards are showing up. So we gotta change the text and the icons. So this first one's gonna be total balance. And we'll have it change. First we have to change the value. So this will be $35,750.20. And we can change this percent to plus 0.25% from last month. There we go, our first card. Then we'll change investment returns to monthly income. And we can just set that to $10,000. Cool. And for this description, we can just say salary and let's change this one to monthly expenses. And we'll get rid of the 0.28 and put $7,000 And in here we can put 70% of monthly income. And let's change financial health score to savings rate. And this can be 30%. And it can be $3,000 saved this month. Cool. That's a good overview for some basic overview cards. And now we have to use the right icons. So let's go back to our app. And we'll change the second icon. So right here. And this will be a plus icon. Then we'll use a minus icon for the expenses. And finally, for the savings rate, we'll use a credit card icon. Cool, that looks better. Now we got some different icons. And now let's build the structure for the wallet page. So let's go to this one. And we'll start off by styling this div with space Y6. And let's remove this component for now. And we'll put a div here of class name flex, justify between, items center, and we'll put h1, and this will have class name text, 3XL, font bold, and it can be my wallet. And then below we'll put a button that will say export financial report. There we go. Cool, so we got the header done. And then below this div, let's put the wallet overview cards. And those are showing up now. And then let's add another div with class name grid, gap 6, medium grid, cols 2. And that's where we're going to put our charts, but we don't have them created yet. And now let's work on building this spending category chart. You can see it right here. So let's go back into VS Code and we'll create a new file under wallet. And we'll call this wallet spending categories.tsx. So I'll create the component. And I'll paste in some data. You can copy that in. And I want to do a card component. And it's going to be class name, width full, max width, 3XL, MX auto, BG purple, 550. And then inside the card we'll have a card header and the card title. So it's going to be spending by category. And then card description is going to be breakdown of your monthly expenses. And below the card header, let's have our card content. And let's put it into the page. So let's put it inside this div. So wallet spending categories, and there we go. And in this card content, let's have a responsive container. It's gonna be width 100%, and then height 400. Cool, and let's put a bar chart inside of that. And the data is going to be spending data. And make sure bar chart's imported from recharts. And inside this bar chart, let's have a margin of top 20, right 30, left 20, and bottom 5. Cool. And for the bar chart, let's add a Cartesian grid with a stroke dash array of 33. And we got to make sure this is a use client component. There we go. So there's our Cartesian grid. And below this, let's add x-axis. And there we see the x-axis. Then let's add the y-axis and a tooltip. And this is going to be formatter equals value, and then an array with backticks, $, value, comma, amount. And let's make sure we have this label. So just close it off. Is tooltip. I don't think it got imported, so I'll tooltip to the recharts imports. And there we go. The tooltip's working now. And I'll set the label. Label style equals color black. And there we go. And now let's add a legend. And the actual bars. So the bar is going to have a dative key of amount, a fill of 888 4D8. And there we go. I think the color is off though, so we gotta fix that, and that's just missing the hashtag here. So cool, there's our spending by categories. Now let's work on this monthly spending trend chart. So that's this right here. So let's go back into VS Code, make a new file, and we'll call this wallet spending trends.tsx. So I'll create that component here. And then I'm going to import this data. So you can just copy that in. And now I'm going to style a card component. So import this from Shadcn. So class name, BG purple, 50. And then in here, let's have a card header. And this will have a card title of monthly spending trend. And a card description of your spending over the last 6 months. And let's have a card content below here. And inside this, we're gonna have a responsive container. And let's put a line chart inside of it. And make sure that imports from recharts. So data equals monthly spending data there we go. Now let's add that component in here. So wallet spending trends. And it looks like we need a use client component. So let's add that up here. And there we go. So now we just have to add the rest of the chart in. So below this line. Oh, there we go. Let's inside the line chart, let's add a Cartesian grid, and the data is going to be monthly spending data. Let's close this tag. Let's fix this. It actually has to be stroke data. Stroke dash array, that was the previous line, and then 3.3. There we go, that fixed it. And then below here, let's add the x-axis, and then data key of monthly, or just month. And then for the y-axis, data key month. Cool. And then let's add a tooltip. So make sure that imports from recharts. And then I accidentally imported that from UI components. So that has to be oh no, that's still oh, I was adding it to components UI card. It has to be in tooltip. There we go. So yeah, now it's imported from recharts. And let's add a line of type monotone, data key of amount, and then stroke of 888 4D8. And then let's get line imported from recharts. Cool. And it's still not showing up. This is what's missing here. Everything looks good on the import. And oh, it looks like I accidentally added a data key to y-axis. And responsive container also needs a width of 100% and a height of 300. So cool, there it is. So now let's work on building this recent transaction list. So let's go back into VS Code, and I'll do new file, and this will be called wallet transactions.tsx. So that looks good. So let's start styling this div, and it's going to be BG purple 50. And let's actually make this a card component from Shadcn. And let's add that below here for our wallet. And there we go, so it's showing up. And I'm just trying to find the data now. So let's paste that up here. So this is going to be the data for the list. And you can add that in. And let's add a card header component. Cool. And a card title. And this will be recent transactions. And let's add a card description below that. And it could be your financial activities for the past week. There we go. And let's add some card content now. And in here, let's add a div. Of class name space y4. And then we're going to map through our transactions. And each is going to be a transaction. And for each one of these, we want to do something. And first, I'm just going to, this error looks like, so first actually we have to import the category icons. So these are all going to be from Lucid React. And these will just display in the list. So there we go. And now let's do const icon component equals category icons, so our list. And then choose the transaction index as key of type of category icons. And then or credit card icon, just so to make sure there's always an icon. And then we want to return a div and inside here for now let's just say hello so we can see the list, and that's how it's going to look. And in here let's do key transaction.id, class name flex, item center, justify between, and then border B, and then padding bottom 2. And then inside this div, let's do class name flex, item center, space x4, and then let's put a div of class name P2, background gray 100, rounded full, and then icon component, class name height 4, width 4, and cool, now we see our icon showing up. And then let's put another div. And inside here, let's put a paragraph tag of class name font, medium, transaction dot description. And then let's put another paragraph tag of class name text small, text gray 500, and then transaction dot date. Cool. So there's most of our list. It's looking good. And then below this in our div, let's add another one. And this is going to be class name text right, p tag, class name, and then in here let's have backticks font medium, $, transaction dot amount greater than 0. Then we want to do text green 600. Otherwise, we want to do text red 600. So it looks like we get an error here. I'm not sure if I missed the bracket yet. Let me look. Oh, it looks like we were missing quotes here. So these have to be separate strings. So there we go. There's most of our list. Now we just have to add the price, how it went up and down. So transaction amount greater than 0. Then we'll do a plus icon. Otherwise, minus icon. And then let's put $. So then we have to put the amount after that. So all of our transactions are negative. So they're all red. And then math, absolute, the transaction amount. This isn't really necessary because all of our transactions are negative. But if there's a positive like deposit, then it would be green text. So I'm just showing you the ways to do both. So now let's add a p tag with class name text small, text gray 500, and this is going to be transaction.category. And there we go. That's the whole recent transactions list. And now let's work on this financial goals tracker. So we're going to add that below this. So let's go to wallet, new file. And this is going to be wallet financial goals.tsx, REFCE. And let's put a card here. And inside the card, let's add a card header. These are all from Shadcn, like the rest of them. And then a card title. And this is going to be financial goals. So card description, track your progress towards your goals. And below wallet transactions, let's add this. So now we got to add the card content. So right below here, and then let's put a div inside of it. And this is going to be class name space y4 div. And then another div inside this div. And this is going to be class name flex justify between margin bottom 1. And then let's put a span tag inside this. And this is going to be class name text small font medium. And it's going to be called emergency fund. And let's add another span below this. That's going to be text small font medium. And it's going to be 70%. Cool. So now let's do, there we have that part. So let's first add the background of purple 50 for the card. There we go. Now it's the right color. And now this span tag is going to have a class name width full, background gray 200, rounded full, height 2.5, and then dark background gray 700. And then inside this div, let's do class name background blue 600, height 2.5, rounded full, style width 70%. I spelled width wrong. And that looks good right there. Oh, it looks like there's an issue with this div. So I think we just have to get rid of it and then backslash there. Oh, and I'm missing the div at the top. There we go. So cool, there's our first one. And we're gonna do that a couple more times now. So let's copy and paste all of this. We'll just change the values. So it's showing up. And this one's gonna be vacation savings. And we'll change this value to 45%. And the value to 45%. And one more. This one's going to be new car. And we do 20%. 20%. And it looks like there's a padding issue. I don't know why the padding's not right here. Let's change the colors first. So it's going to be blue, green. So the colors are working. There's still the padding issue. They look the same. Is the div correct? Oh, it looks like my div might be positioned off. Oh, I positioned the div outside. So there we go. Just want to make sure the div's in the right place. Now let's work on these investment portfolio cards you see right here. So it's going to be similar to the other ones we made. So let's make a new folder here. And we'll call it this is a file. Yeah, we have to make a folder. Actually, that was a file. So new folder, and then investments. And we'll make a new page or a new component. So investment overview, cards.tsx. And I'll create a component here. And I'll clean up all these tabs. And it's going to be very similar to this. So we'll just use this as a template. And I'll paste that in here. And we also need the same imports. So there we go. And let's add it to our investments page. So investment overview cards. And let's go back to our page. So unsupported. Oh, it looks like I didn't save it. So here's the cards. And we still eventually got to update their content. But for now, let's paste in some data. And this is going to be the data we're going to use for our investments page. So you can copy this in. I didn't think it was necessary to type it all out. And so there we go. And now let's structure how this investment page is going to look. So it's going to be space Y6. And that's going to be div, class name flex, justify between, item center. And let's have an H1 tag below of class name text 3 XL, font bold, and it's going to be called investment portfolio. And let's put a button below that's going to say generate report. Cool. And now below this investment overview cards, let's make a div that says class name grid, gap 6, medium grid, cols 2. There we go. And now let's work on this portfolio performance tracker. So let's create that component now. So I'll go down to investments, new file, and we'll call this portfolio performance.tsx. And I'll use RIFCE. And this is going to have an interface. Performance data, and it's going to be name string, stocks number, bonds number, and real estate number. And it's going to have another interface, which we'll use as the props. That's going to be portfolio, performance, props. And it's going to have data of, it's going to be capitalized, performance, data, and it's going to be an array. And let's pass those in. So data, portfolio, performance, props. And let's put a card component here now. And let's style this with class name BG purple 50. And have a card header. And inside the headers have a card title. And it's going to be portfolio, performance, cool, so that's a good start. Now let's render it on our page. So below all this data, let's put this component right here. Cool, the component's showing up. And now below this portfolio performance, let's do a card description. And it's going to be track your investments across different asset classes. And now let's have card content. And let's have a responsive container of width 100%, height 300, and let's put a lines chart inside. And we have to make sure it's imported. There we go, recharts. It's just a line chart, not lines chart. And let's pass through our data. And let's make sure it's use client so we get rid of the error. Cool, so we got the structure there. Now we just need to render what's in the line chart. So let's have a Cartesian grid. And it's going to be stroke dash array. It's 3, 3. And make sure we import that from recharts. There's the Cartesian grid. Then let's import x-axis of data key name. And then y-axis. And then let's add in a tooltip. And a legend. There we go. And now let's add the line in. So it's going to be a type monotone. data key of stocks, and stroke of 0088 FE. And let's close that. And then make sure that's imported from recharts. And there we go. There is our first line of our portfolio performance tracker. Let's add another line. It's going to be type monotone, data key of bonds, and the stroke is going to be 00C49F. Let's close that off. And let's add another one. We're just going to be type monotone, data key, real estate, and then stroke of FFBB28. Cool. So I think, yeah, there's our portfolio performance tracker. And now let's work on this asset allocation pie chart. So that's going to be right below there. And let's pick a new component called asset allocation TSX. And now let's create an interface. So it's going to be allocation data. And we're going to pass in a name of string, value of number, and then color of string. And let's have another interface. And this is going to be asset allocation props. And it's going to be data of allocation data. And let's pass in this data asset allocation props. And let's have a card. So that's going to be from Shadcn. And it's going to be class name, background purple, 50. And let's put that in here. Asset allocation. And let's pass in the data. Asset allocation data. Cool. And we can see part of it right there. So now let's add in a header. And we're going to have a card title. And this is going to be asset allocation. Let's make sure we put a space there. There's the header. And now let's add a description. That's going to be current distribution of your investments. And below the card header, let's have our card content. And this is going to be a responsive container from root charts with a width of 100%, a height of 300, and below let's have a pie chart. And let's have some pi data with a CX of 50% and a CY of 50%. Let's have a label line equal false. And then outer radius 80, and then fill of 888 for D8. And then data key, and then value cool. Now let's close off the pie chart. And let's import use client here so it works. And there we go. We have to still color it, but it's looking good. And then we're going to map through our data of the entry and the index. And then we're going to display a cell with a key of backticks cell /$ index fill entry.color, and make sure we import cell from recharts. And then below this pie, let's add a tooltip, and that's going to be from recharts. And then let's add the legend in. There we go. So cool, there it is. And now let's work on this sector analysis. So we're going to put that next to the pie. And let's make a new component called sector analysis.tsx. And let's create that component. And this is going to have an interface of investment data. And it's going to be sector, string, amount, number. Let's have an interface below. That's sector analysis. That's data, investment data. And then in here, let's pass in the data prop of type sector analysis prop. So we have to change that name. There we go. And now let's put that in our page. And let's pass in the data. Which is investment, what is it called? Oh, I think it's just, it's allocation data. Did I pass in? Let me check here for a second. What's going on? Oh, I think data should be investments. There we go. And we see the header, so now let's create a card. And it's going to be class name BG purple 50. And let's make sure we import that. That's out of card header. And it's going to be a card title inside of it. There we go. And then in here, let's write sector analysis. And then let's have a card description of investment distribution across sectors. Cool. And below the card header, let's have a card content. And this is going to be responsive container with 100%. And then height of 300. And let's put a bar chart of and pass in the data. And let's make sure we import bar chart from recharts and not Lucid. Cool. And then inside this bar chart, we want to pass in a Cartesian grid of stroke dash array 3 3, and below it, let's do x-axis, data key, and then sector, and then y-axis, and I'll put a tooltip below. And let's add the bar now of data key, amount, and fill of 888 4D8. And make sure that's imported from recharts. And we got to make sure this is a use client component as well. And cool, it just looks like the color's off. So we're just missing hashtag. And there we go. There's our sector analysis. And now let's work on this investments holding component. So let's go back into VS Code, and we'll do new file and call this investment holdings .tsx. And I'll create that component. And let's have an interface of investments, and then ID number, and then a name string, and then a symbol of string, and then amount number, and change number, and then a sector of string. And let's have another interface of investment holdings props, and this is going to be investments, and then investment array. Cool. And then let's pass in investments. And then investment holdings props. There we go. And let's pass in the data of investments. It has to be investments, actually. That's what we called the prop. And now style this. So it's going to be a card component of class name, background purple, 50. And then card header. And then card title. And it's going to be investment holdings. And then a card description of detailed view of your current investments. And below this card header, let's have card content. And let's have a div of class name space Y4. And in here, let's have investments dot map. And we're gonna have investments equals, and in here let's pass in some divs, and it's gonna be hello. Cool. So that's just hello for now, and now we can actually add in what we want. So let's delete this, and it's gonna be in the div. Let's have a key of investment.id, class name flex, justify between, item center, border bottom, padding bottom 2. Let's close off this tag. And then in this div, let's make another one. And inside this div, let's have a paragraph tag of class name font medium. Now let's do investment.name. Let's have another paragraph tag of class name text small, text gray 500, and then investment dot symbol minus investment dot sector or slash. There we go. Cool. And now below this div, let's add another div. And this can be class name text right. And then inside, let's have a paragraph of class name font medium. And let's have a $, brackets investment dot amount dot to fixed. There we go. And we're gonna pass in 2. And we gotta close it off properly. There we go. And make sure you add the text right. Cool. So there's the value. And now below this P, let's have another paragraph of class name. And this is going to be backticks and text small, flex, items center, and then $, brackets, investment dot change greater than 0. Then we're going to have text green 600, otherwise text red 600. Make sure that's saved. And then inside this paragraph tag, let's do brackets, investment dot change greater than 0, question mark. Then we're going to do arrow up, and width 4, height 4, margin right 1. And then otherwise, we're going to do arrow down. Down right. So class name width 4, height 4, margin right 1. There we go. And now we see the arrow show up with the value. So that's a nice looking list now. And below this, let's do the math, absolute, and then the value. So change %. So now we got it showing up. Cool. That's looking good now. And we also have to update these values to the investment portfolio values. So let's go back into investment holdings and then investment overview cards. And we're going to replace total balance with portfolio value. And then this number we're going to replace with 945,000. And this is going to be updated real time. And then monthly income is going to be ROI. And this 10,000 is going to be 12.7%. And this is going to be return on investment. Cool. And now let's remove monthly expenses and change it to risk level. And it's going to be 63%. And we're going to call it moderate risk. And then a savings rate of diversification score. And let's change this to 82%. And well diversified portfolio. Cool. And there we go. The cards are updated. So that's looking a lot better. And that finishes off our investment portfolio page. And finally, we're going to work on this settings component. So it's going to be this profile and this billing page. So let's go to our settings page. And we're going to edit this. And we're going to have a class name of space Y6. and then a div of class name flex, justify between, item center, and let's put an H1 here, and this is going to be class name text 3XL, font bold, and we're going to call it settings, and below this let's have a button that's going to be save changes, and let's have a tabs below this from Shadcn, and it's going to be default value profile class name with full, and inside the tabs let's have a tabs list of class name grid with full grid calls 2. Make sure that's imported. And we're going to have a tabs trigger of value profile and a tabs trigger of value billing. There we go. And those are going to be our 2 tabs. And now let's have our tabs content, which is going to be value profile to be default. And then this is going to be our profile settings. And that still has to be made, so I'll just comment it out for now. There we go. And then a tabs content value of billing. And then we're going to have our billing settings, which I'll also comment out because it's not created yet. And cool, there we see our 2 selections. So it can either be on profile or billing. And now let's create this first profile component. So let's make a new folder. That's going to be settings, new file, and we'll call it profile settings.tsx. Create that. And here we're going to put a card of class name background purple 50. Make sure that's imported. And we're going to have a card header with a card title of profile information and a card description of update your personal details here. And below the card header, let's have card content. And let's have class name space Y4. And let's uncomment the profile settings now. Cool, so that's imported. There we see the start of our profile settings. And now let's create this content. So it's going to be a div of class name flex item center space x4. And it's going to be class name flex items center space x4. Cool, so let's put the avatar component. And this is going to show a picture. So I need to make sure it's imported from you. It's just going to be from Shadcn again. And it's going to be source placeholder.svg. And you can replace that with the image if you want. Right now, it's just going to be nothing. And we're going to add a avatar fallback, which is what's going to be displayed. And this is going to be CN. There we go. And let's create another div now. And it's going to be class name grid gap 4 medium grid cols 2. Let's have a div inside this. And this is going to be class name space y2. And inside here, let's have a label from Shadcn. So let's make sure it's imported from the right one. There we go. And it's going to be HTML4 and first name. I'm going to say first name. And then input ID last name. Actually, that's first name still. This is going to be the input for the first name. So it has to match the label. And then placeholder, you can just say John. And let's close off this component and make sure it's imported. There we go. And let's copy this. Copy that inside part and paste it below for our other inputs. So now we're going to edit these. So this one's going to be, actually they need spaces here. So this one's going to be last name. And make sure you update the HTML. There we go. Cool, that updated. And this is going to be email. Email. And yeah, the placeholder for the last name actually has to be Doe. And then we'll put placeholder email. And then we're going to need a phone number. Phone number. And we can do a placeholder phone number. So it can be +1 brackets 555 000 0000. Cool. And that's looking good. Nice. But we're gonna have one more div at the bottom. That's gonna be a class name space y2. And it's gonna be a label. And it's gonna be HTML4. And it's gonna be your bio. So let's put an input below that. And then a placeholder of tell us about yourself. Nice, so that worked. And finally, we're gonna make this billing component. So that's this right here. So let's go back into VS Code. And we're going to do a new component called billing settings.tsx. And I'll create that component. Now let's put a card here from Shadcn, and then a card header. And let's add a card title. And the card title is going to be billing information. And below it, let's have a card description. That's going to be manage your billing details and subscription. And let's add our card content now. And it's going to be styled with a space Y4. And let's have a div inside. That's going to be class name space Y2. And let's have a label from Shadcn, so make sure that's imported correctly. And it's going to be current plan. And let's uncomment this billing settings. Make sure that's imported. There we go. And below the label, let's put a paragraph tag of class name text small, font medium. And it's going to be pro plan of $19.99 per month. There we go. And below this div, let's have a separator. And then let's copy this, paste it below. We're gonna look what it, and that's how it looks. So we actually don't need the second separator, just the div, because we're gonna have something similar. Or actually, it differs enough where we might just not even need it. Let's just make a new div. So it's gonna be class name space Y2, and it's gonna be label, and then HTML4, card number, and then card number, and then input ID, card number, and then placeholder. Of asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. And this is going to be placeholder asterisk. And then a couple numbers at the end to show it's a debit card. There we go. Let's import that. Cool. We're almost done with this component now. And let's add another div below. It's going to be class name grid, gap 4, medium, grid cols 2. And this is going to be a div of class name space Y2. And then label HTML4. And then expiry date. And expiry date. Cool. Now let's have an input below that of ID, expiry date, placeholder, MMYY. And let's copy that below for another component, which is going to be the CVV. So I'll update those values. Nice. And now let's add the last part, which is going to be the card footer. And it's going to be class name flex, justify between. And inside it, let's have a button. That's going to be a variant of outline. And it can be cancel subscription. And we can delete that last part. And let's have another button. That's going to be update billing info. So to refresh that, and let's make sure the card's background is background purple 50. And there you have it. That's the last part of the project. So we can take a look now of what we built, and congrats for making it to the end of the video.